Sex control. How to have control over your sexuality. I understand that most people have heard the word self-control. I didn't use that term because self-control is a general word. It can be used to gild people on money management, anger management, and so on. So I created a specific term that specializes and could only be used on sex-related issues. I decided to practice sex control from the very day I read the Holy Book, and somehow my eyes moved to see what is written in Job chapter 31 verse 1. I thank God that immediately my eyes saw it, my mind also found it, otherwise, I would have missed it. If your eyes sees it but your mind didn't, you can never understand it. I never knew Job said such a thing in the Bible. In fact, when I saw Job chapter 31 verse 1, I was vavavoommed. I had to check whether I was truly reading the Holy Bible or something else. When I checked, it was indeed the Holy Bible I was reading. I used to masturbate every day of my life. Sometimes I could not even count how many times I masturbated in a day. When I read the Bible and saw what Job said in chapter 31:1, it was never easy, but I told myself that, throughout today, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., I must not look back, whether lustfully or not, at a woman while driving, walking, or in any way once a sexy woman passes by me. This decision was very painful, but I was tired of masturbating and needed a positive solution by all means. So I made a drastic decision whether to allow masturbation remote and control my life to destruction, or to take the painful decision that is right to come out. If you do the things that are hard today, your tomorrow will be soft. If you do the things that are soft today, your tomorrow will be hard. I knew all the things that turned me on to masturbate, and after some years I discovered their solutions, but I was not willing to practice or try any of them. Even though I was tired of masturbating, I could not let it go because I was wondering, how can I stay in this naked world and not masturbate? Somehow, I ran into my sex orderly helper, destiny helper, which was Job chapter 31 verse 1. Then I realized the grace of God alone is not enough to overcome without a personal decision to control myself by playing my part. I discovered this hard truth on my own, and I made up my mind to practice it. Nothing just happened. You must play your part to make it happen. The eyes of my understanding opened to the fact that, since I am a child of God, grace will not help me in some areas if I fail to practice sex control. The grace of God alone will not help you overcome masturbation if you fail to play your own part. All this shout of grace. 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 Yet busy abusing it, we are deceiving ourselves. Sex control is not sweet at the beginning but sweet at the end. Sex control is bitter than bitter leaf but sweeter than honey when you overcome. That is why a man can accept to drink bitter leaf water, but refuse to stay away from sin. Yet, he or she is following people to shout, "The grace of God is sufficient." The grace of God should not cause you to sin, rather, it should cause you to stay very far from sin. A lot of people have refused to discipline themselves to practice sex control. That is why they are abusing God's grace. This is why the Bible asked us a question: shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Romans chapter 6 verse 1. Grace expires. Your grace tank is full from the day you were born, but the more you continue doing evil, the more the volume of your grace begins to diminish and flow out like water from a basket or smoke from fire. The more you keep doing the right things, the grace in your tank will be strengthened and sustained. Masturbation can be so sweet while watching pornography and trying to ejaculate, but it destroys. Sex control is painful, but you need it because the pain from sex control is a good pain. After a while that pain will pay you because it will no longer become pain but pleasure. There are two types of pain, the pain of discipline and pain of regret. Avoiding sexual disorderliness is pain of discipline, while the other is pain of regret. If you look around, you will see a lot of people regretting near you. Don't let the pain of regret happen to you. The way God programmed life is, pain should come first before pleasure, but people don't want pain, they just want the pleasure. That is not how God programmed life. Even the few that understand this law, not all of them are obeying it. Even the few are becoming fewer because they didn't develop the patience to stand strong. You can join the few still standing strong right now so that the few can increase, and it is for your own good, and the good of your unborn children and humanity. The reason most people find it so difficult to practice sex control is because they assume they can't practice it. You can never know how painful destruction is until you see other people's life being destroyed, and you are smart at that point to understand the cause or causes of their destruction. Many people don't want to practice sex control because they feel they can't do it, or it is not possible due to how deep they have drowned themselves in the act. However, the moment one begins to practice sex control, that is when she will know how it is. Don't expect sex control to be easy at the beginning. Nothing good comes easy. Even blood money don't come easy. They also sacrifice, kill and do all manner of evil. It makes them hide from the reality of process, but later, they pay dearly for their evil. The earlier we start practicing sex control, the better for us. If we fail to practice sex control and say grace will help us, I bet you, we can keep shouting grace from now till rapture, but will still not have a better result. When I say hard truths like this, people say I am judging. But I'm speaking from experience and fact that the crowds are not seeing. When we start practicing sex control, after a while, we will discover that we will get used to sex control. In other words, the strength or grace to overcome that issue will come on us after a while. Grace doesn't just come on you, you have to work it out. A man that doesn't know how to drive can't get a driving job. The grace is on him, but until he goes to learn driving and begins to drive, his grace will still be sleeping. That one is practicing sex control. Masturbation victory does not mean the individual will stop telling lies. She also have to practice truth-telling, stop stealing and so on. If an individual has 2 or more sins he or she is struggling with, I advise her to start practicing how to come out of the 2 sins at the same time. Else, if it takes the individual 5 years to practice sex control, it might also take her another 5 years or more to practice truth-telling. If after the individual came out victoriously from the above sins but does not understand money, how to make sales, leadership, what it takes to be a husband or wife, anger management, self-discovery and so on, let's say an individual uses 5 years each to pass each subject life presents to them, calculate how many years the person has left if he or she discovers the truth about him, herself at the age of 25, 30 or even 40 or 50. Have in mind that not everyone will live up to 50, but everyone has the capacity to fulfill the assignment the Creator gave them life for before the age of 50. If one have not found her purpose, do you know how many years it will take to find your purpose? If you calculate the years it takes people to discover themselves and overcome bad habits, you will realize how soon you must start doing the right thing, because you don't have enough time. Even if you think you are still very young, do. These are deep thoughts that if you think about will help you become very bold in taking responsibility of your life. Self-control is taking responsibility of your life. Self-control will make you not to leave your own responsibilities for God. Imagine God leaving His own responsibilities for you. Can you handle it? God can't handle your responsibility. He can only handle His. Will God sweep your house or wash your plates for you, or is He the one to make love to your spouse? Those are not His responsibility. His responsibility is to protect you if you are not the one that went to look for trouble. If you look for trouble and He helps you, that is exceptional, not fact. His responsibility is to show you the spouse to marry, house to live, where to go and so on, but your responsibility is to choose because he will never choose for you. Your ability to choose rightly depends on the amount of information you have about his rules and regulations. I am so blessed by this book and am very sure you are blessed too. You can never handle God's responsibilities and the Lord will never handle yours. Many people are refusing to take up their responsibilities. Sex control is meant for the children of God, not for people of the world. What I want to say now will get a lot of Christians angry. If you check their anger, is either they fall into the category or they just don't want to accept truth. Look at this without bias and take a look at the lives of old Christians. I don't mean new Christians. If you know the gazillion of Christians that are committing sin, I can tell you that 80% of Christians who have been in the fold as pastors, deacons, prophets, workers and so on for over 5 years are still committing sin on a daily basis. 80% of Christians have not developed themselves to be able to resist temptation, iniquity or sin when it comes to them in private where no one is seeing them, or even in the open because it must come. Ask yourself if you can resist sin in your privacy. Can you resist sin in your privacy? I mean, when you are alone with sin, can you still resist sin? Mention the type of sins you can't resist in your privacy and in the open. Write them on a brand new notebook and make sure you go through them every day and look for ways to come out of each. The one you have overcome after a month of not committing such again, cancel it by one stroke with your pen. Then go out and tell your fellow pastors, ushers, workers, deacons, and instrumentalists, and so on to do same. Look at the result you will get. If you do this, we will discover you will accept what I said. The moment we become children of God, we will need daily practice of self-control to be able to deal with our past sins, otherwise, we won't be able to come out of them even though we have confessed and accepted the Savior into our lives. Grace will always be there to help us overcome sin, but we need self-control more than grace. If you read this book from the beginning, you won't argue. Self-control is a conscious thing. Grace is an unconscious thing. You need both to make it to heaven. Hard truth. What I want to say now, so many people will argue it. But after arguing, sit and take a look of how your life and the life of your friends have been since you gave your life to the Savior. Grace will help you to accept the Savior because it is the Spirit that will convict you through a word that comes out of the mouth of His servant or His word that you study personally, but it is self-control that will make you overcome your past sins, not grace. By now I'm sure the head of so many people are running wild due to what I said. That is why so many people are always abusing grace, because they don't even understand grace. Let me help to show you where you have been missing it by giving you this example. Example: orange and apple are fruits, but they have different purposes to fulfill in our lives. They are fruits, but their purposes are different. The error so many people make is that they heard about grace and took it to heart that grace will do everything for them. Can grace sweep your house? And what is grace? Grace is that strength with which you picked up a broom and swept your house. That is grace. The people lying dead in the mortuary or sick in the hospital do not have such grace. God has never failed anybody, but people are the ones failing Him. Like I said, grace can make you accept the Savior, but grace will not make you stay away from your past sins. It is the work of self-control to do that. Have you wondered why we have so many people who call on God more than anyone yet they are living in sin? The answer is due to their lack of self-control, not the lack of grace. There are 9 fruits of the Spirit in Galatians chapter 5 verse 22 and 23. If love could do the direct purpose of joy, God wouldn't have mentioned all the other 8. If you have one and you don't have the other, you will still struggle. You won't be able to fully enjoy the Creator. However, if you have love, it will be so easy, I mean very easy, for you to display the other 8, because in love is where you will find the other 8. Love is the greatest fruit of the Spirit. The moment you begin to obey the Creator, you will not see the fruits of your obedience immediately. It's like a farmer that plants a seed, the seed does not germinate immediately. As you keep obeying God by living the life He has asked you to live, after a while, the fruits of your obedience will start germinating from your inside to your outside, for not just ourselves but also for everyone to benefit from. Just as you are benefiting from this book now. But most people want it immediately. The moment they start obeying God and a day or 2 days passed and they don't see the result, they backslide and think they are doing God. Let me shock you, it is better you never knew God than for you to know Him and later backslide. What you will face when you return is tougher. Because you will start all over again. By then your mates have already gone far with Him. You will have to repeat the classes you didn't attend. This is one expressway where newcomers overtake older believers. You are lucky, I will explain. Check the people who backslide. Majority always claim they are still in the faith. A lot of them don't even know they have backslide, maybe because they still go to religious places and function in departments. If you don't know someone that backslide, I know. They are all over the place. By the time they return to their Creator, they had forgotten that they backslided for 5 years. Some 10, and so on. When they now return, they thought they will just continue from where they stopped, not knowing they will start all over. Grace does not have anything to do in this case, you have to follow the Creator's principle. Grace flows with principle, not miracle. I have given you many examples to convince you that you must obey and practice self-control, else, you will be answering child of God by mouth, but God knows, and the devil also knows you are not. If you claim to be a child of God but fail to practice His principles, rather you are busy shouting grace. Grace, the devil is the one using you. In a nutshell, self-control is a must for an individual to live a life devoid of masturbation or sexual sin or any other life matters. If you are thinking that you want to get married so you will stop masturbating, you are deceiving yourself. Same thing applies to fornication. If you get married without dealing with fornication, you can never live your marriage without committing adultery. Unless you deal with it in marriage, which might take longer time but surely would have destroyed or almost destroyed your marriage. Till God brings me your way again. I am Professor Holy Rock. Ansem saying, remain sexually clean.